Yeah, look, I mean, if I'm in a serious position from a financial perspective, sometimes you just get so busy. You don't really focus. You do your accounting every year, you get a bit of a refund and whatever else, and you whinge for a few minutes about how much tax you pay because you see it on your group certificate, and then you just move on and you get on to the next year and the next year. And then, so I guess it's not until you stop, take stock and have a look at what you're doing. You know, you've got young kids around at that stage for us as well. So you're really busy with combining work, family, and parents as well, and friends. It's a pretty busy time. So yeah, it's good. We kind of took stock and said, oh, what are we going to do to reduce that? So we already had a couple of investment properties at that stage. So then we went heavily into the share market and, got a huge amount of managed funds.
A warm welcome to the Freedom Podcast. My name is Konstantin. I went from picking bananas to running a successful digital marketing agency, all online. And in today's Freedom Podcast episode, I have a very special guest, one of our clients, Julian Khursigara, who has an abundance of experience when it comes down to investing in stocks, investing in property. Julian owns over 7 property. And on top of that, runs a very successful buyer's agency firm that helps everyday Australians build wealth through property. Julian, thank you so much for traveling all the way from Sydney
Good to be here, Cos.
to the cold Melbourne. I really appreciate you as actually also like one of my mentors as well. You've been guiding me through a lot of different things, and you've been one of our very first clients at our digital marketing agency. And it's an honor to have you today on the podcast, and I can't wait to unlock all the value from you, grab all the possible value that we can get from you.
Excellent, looking forward to it.
Amazing. So I would love to ask you, you've gone through this whole journey of being a high income professional. You worked in the corporate world. And through this journey, you've discovered a few things that kind of led you to property investing. Could you share that journey with me?
Yeah, sure. I guess we go all the way back. My migrant parents came here with three kids under the age of 5. We arrived in the mid-70s in Australia. Very white Australia back then, not like it is today. So I remember in school, I was the only coloured kid in school, particularly in primary school. I think once we got to high school, a bit more multiculturalism, growing up in the western suburbs of Sydney. Okay at school. Didn't shoot the lights out, but did okay. Probably too busy dreaming about sport and girls and all the other things that you do as a young teenager. Then tried my hand at accounting for 2 years after school. Didn't finish that course off. Then I fell into the travel industry as a part-time job, and then it became a full-time job just as a mail boy, and then really had a passion for that. I always liked the economics. I did well at economics at school, about the only subject I did, and marketing and sales. So I ended up studying tourism marketing as a major. And then, spent maybe 5-7 years in that industry, became like an assistant sales manager at an airline. So that was a great experience at a very young age in my, I think, mid-20s. And I was managing, people in their 40s and 50s. It was a very quick learning curve. And then went into hotels, which is a great experience for me around customer service, probably where I get that real focus on the customer and how we interact with our customers at our current company. From there then fell into, left that industry because I didn't want to travel overseas, because that's what my next step was there. And I met a girl who ended up being my wife. So I made the right decision to stay in Australia, and then went into marketing, but into loyalty marketing, specifically working with the banks, credit card companies, and large corporates like Telstra and Optus, and running their complete loyalty propositions in Australia. So that's probably where the data side really kicked in for me. It was pre-AI and pre all the data sort of software we have today, but you had to understand customer data, employee data, how to get them to perform better in sales teams and things like that. So that was the journey there. And then a couple more went overseas, spent 3.5 years in India with my family, who were very young. The kids were very young then, which is great, my wife.
Which part of India?
So we went to Mumbai. And set up a business there. And, we left after 3 years or so, and had 50 staff and launched with 3 banks. So that was an excellent experience. My wife was also in the same company. So we were joint country heads. We set up this business there, which is now owned by MasterCard. So that was the best experience of my life. And really probably set me up for that next path, next journey.
Incredible. So you worked your way all the way up from kind of studying to working in tourism to high-end corporate job and become like a pro-professional high-income earner. What were some of the challenges, and it's something that I experience right now with running a business and high income? What sort of challenges have you experienced with that particular income stream?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably a good challenge to have, better than the alternative. But yeah, look, I mean, from in a serious position from a financial perspective, sometimes you just get so busy and you don't really focus. You do your accounting every year, you get a bit of a refund and whatever else, and you whinge for a few minutes about how much tax you pay because you see it on your group certificate, and then you just move on and you get on to the next year and the next year. And then so I guess it's not until you stop, take stock and have a look at what you're doing. You know, you've got young kids around at that stage for us as well. So you're really busy with combining work, family, and parents as well, and friends. It's a pretty busy time. So yeah, it's good. We kind of took stock and said, okay, well, what are we going to do to reduce that? So we already had a couple of investment properties at that stage. So then we went heavily into the share market and got a huge amount of managed funds and leveraged it and geared it and do everything that you're taught to do in that sector. And that was just before 2008, and we all know what happened in 2008, which caused that entire portfolio to crash.
Wow.
So $0.
That's crazy. So you've experienced obviously the pinch of paying a lot of tax each year. You guys decided to do something about it. And one of the strategies back then that you were doing research or from peers, invest in stocks.
Yeah.
Were there like ETFs, or were you investing in kind of like specific companies like Apple, or what was
No, I probably went for a bit of a broad aspect, a lot of industrial property funds and trusts, what they call REITs now. So we did, we pretty much put all the cards into that. So it didn't really go down. I mean, I always had Commonwealth Bank and Telstra and all the big blue chips, but never really went too deep into individual stocks. It was kind of more the industrial stocks.
Yeah, and that's absolutely crazy because a lot of people like they're really hard on stocks. Like you have to invest. And right now we are in that kind of period where I feel like it's kind of like starting to ballooning up, and it's like whether it's going to pop or not, we don't really know.
Yeah.
But that's eventually what happened in 2008. You pretty much lost like your whole portfolio. And you were telling me also like personal stories, like your wife, like, yeah, it was a very challenging period as well, right? Like you lose all your funds and you get like remorse. Oh, what if I put it in this one or in a property? How have you guys, like, what was the process of recovering out of that situation, being able to pick yourself up? And then you moved into property, right? Like that's the main lesson you learned from there.
I think the fortunate part about when that happened, we had just moved to India. To do that expat contract. And so I don't think we had time to think about it and lament how much, woe is me, how much money have we lost, because we were just busy. We were both working full time, starting a company from scratch. So I think, it's a good point you make, because I think if we were sitting at home, it would have been a bigger deal.
I see.
But because we're over there, we're just busy working hard and getting things done. So it wasn't until we got back to Australia three or so years later when we had to sit back and okay, well, now what are we going to do? We rented our house out. We had a couple other properties. It was a successful time there financially as well for us. So that's when we kind of really went, okay, well, my wife was like, we're not doing shares again. That was your dumb idea. We're not doing that again. So that's where the property sort of bug started. And then I really just went head deep into, or knee deep, I should say, into the property industry.
Where are you doing? I mean, the internet was there as well, but I feel like really in the last few years, it really accelerated what you can learn online and all this kind of stuff. It wasn't really back then. I think like old school, classical, like the property seminars were still a thing, I believe. What were your methods back then to doing like your research and trying to find out like what's potentially best for you?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, we didn't have it at our fingertips like we do now, right? So I had to go to a lot of those, and you kind of, you don't really know the difference because there weren't these guys, what we consider today more spruikers. So you go there, you run to the back of the room and you get a discount today and you get $10,000 off. So you're sitting there watching these people run to the back of the room and go, wow, that's a really interesting, but these guys are selling 10 properties today. That's all. You don't know until later. Like now, I know they're making $30,000-$40,000 a deal.
Yeah.
Off, a house land package or something like that. So
that's pretty crazy. Yeah. Plus that high pressure environment is, I've been to a few business seminars like that where it's kind of like they drop the offer and man, people are running for their lives to the table. It's pretty crazy. I've never seen something like that. It's literally like last year I went to the first one and people are running for their lives to the table to, to sign the contract.
Yeah.
And if you do it responsibly, it can be done well.
Agreed.
Right, but what happened to you is kind of one of your properties that you've invested in a similar fashion was like a high-rise apartment, right? Like which you got kind of like you got spooked into it, right? Like could you share about that experience?
Yeah, I guess that was the classical first apartment. I was single at that stage and went into that deal, and I thought it might be a cool place to live as well. It was in a really cool part of Sydney, an area called Newtown. And it was the first high-rise development in Newtown, and it looked, had swimming pools and tennis courts, and it looked very cool. So I thought, okay, well, that could be the place for my first property, and so I bought that. But no research, just trusted the agent. Everything he told me, I just trusted and believed everything he said. But I find out many years later that I paid a lot more than other people paid because back then I couldn't check RP data and sources like that. Later on, I could check how much everyone paid for each apartment. There's that much data.
And you paid more.
I paid a bit more than that and things like that. But, that's 10 years down the track. You don't worry about it. But
is it gone up a little bit or?
Oh, yeah, that property has done well now. But, yeah, for the first 6 years, and that's the thing about property cycles, that didn't move at all. The 6 years of no growth. So there was no equity for us to
pull out
and keep going. So the only way we had equity was our own properties. Sorry, the family home. And obviously just cash savings through our salaries.
And what happened after that kind of like initial process, like you purchased that high-rise apartment, didn't move for 6 years. In the meantime, you were trying to still invest in property and trying different things out, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't until we went back into property, as I said, until we got back from that overseas jaunt. I think it's 2014. And that was pre-Royal Commission. So the banks were just giving away money without checking it. We signed loan documents, just one pages. Looking back, it was probably a little bit naive of us to trust. Again, we trusted a property. Let's give you the mortgage broker / property seller, sales agent.
Okay.
Who today definitely a spruiker. And the guy landed on the front page of Sydney Morning Herald, so definitely wasn't an honest chap. But put on a good tap dance and very good show, and treated us very well. And we just signed documents, and we got 5 loans that year. So we bought 4 properties outside and 1 property in our super fund. So we had a self-managed super fund as well set up. So it also happened quite quickly. Now in hindsight, if we didn't do that, we'd be in a very different position today. So luckily the banks allowed us to do that, which you definitely can't do today.
It's gone much harder, much tighter with the loan, with the higher interest rates, which we're gonna dive much deeper in a moment as well. But through this journey, you've accumulated like seven plus properties. I think you mentioned to me personally, you sold a few as well. Until now, you've got 7 properties, which is just absolutely incredible. In Australia, it's a huge amount of success. Plus, you have through this journey, you've accumulated so much experience that led you to start Search Party Property. Can you tell me how you got into it? I remember you quit your job to go all into the Search Party Property. What was that experience like, and how have you been able to grow it?
I was one of those, I think, like I said, came back from overseas, and I've always had that entrepreneurial flair and blood, but you kind of get locked into the corporate world, right? You're getting well paid. It's quite exciting. You can get to travel a little bit as well and get to travel overseas a lot for different jobs. So, it was just that bug in the stomach, and I got made redundant. So it was kind of the right time, it's kind of like the stars aligned. Luke, my business partner, and I had been giving blood at the Red Cross for every month, and we'd sit there and talk about property and this business idea he had. And then he had just started the company first. He founded the company and kept sort of saying, you should come into it. And then eventually I was made redundant, and that's when I started doing a little bit of work for him while I was looking for a job. And then he said, no, come on in. And then, so then I came into the business. COVID hit, which pretty much flattened the business. I was lucky I picked up a big contract with a Dutch company for about a year just to get me through COVID. It was a really tough time. Basically, you leave a really high-paying job. And if I was still working in the corporate world, I'd have been at home doing nothing, getting very well paid, like everyone in the corporate world did. But that wasn't the case when you start your own business. So you kind of think, what have I done? But
plus you've got your children both in the premium school.
We had private school fees as well. It just started around COVID time, so it wasn't a great time. But my wife backed me, and she obviously was happy for me to go and live a dream, I guess, which was to start my own business, and particularly in the property sector.
Yeah, and through this through this journey, eventually we started working together. We've done a bit of paid ads for yourself. Which has been successful, but majority kind of like a big opportunity for you guys, I would say, is really the strategic partnerships that you've been able to develop with other kind of brokers and other people in the industry, which is literally for the last few months, Julian's business absolutely skyrocketed, in combination with all of the strategies that we've been doing. But could you tell me about that strategic partnership approach that led you to this crazy growth that we experienced in the last few months?
Yeah, I think just the evolution of your business, you just kind of start just trying to meet a lot of people and trying to get customers through organic means or Facebook advertising and a different type of pull marketing, so to speak. But I guess we slowly build partnerships with mortgage brokers, financial planners, accountants, and I think it just takes time because they need to trust you. They need to also see the success you have. And the best partners we have are ones who do not expect anything in return. There's no we paying them, they paying us for any leads. It's just a pure respect based on professionalism. And our couple of biggest partners are that. They know when they give us a client, we look after them, they successfully buy a property, and within 12 months, they're back to them to get another loan. So they can see that full circle now. They're like, wow, this is fantastic. These guys are bringing the clients back. And if they didn't go through a good buyer's agent or they did themselves and they bought poorly, which is a high chance, then they'll never come back for another loan because they're stuck. They've bought off the plan a high-rise apartment or they've done something else that then would mean they wouldn't come back for. So that was a real success. And once they saw that happening, we just saw the lead referrals just start to grow. And now it's kind of it's just an ongoing process. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's absolutely incredible. And I think what's interesting as well is your approach at Search Party Property. It's a very different approach than kind of with other firms helping others invest in property. You guys do it in a very unique, very boutique style. Could you share a little bit what really makes the difference in this space?
Yeah, I guess coming from a consultative selling approach in my other businesses and worked in SaaS companies and technology, I guess we really went from a strategist point of view. So really treat everyone as an individual. So no one comes into our business as a client and we say you must buy this, or we don't hold stock or anything like that, or we only buy in one particular town, or we only buy 8% high yielding properties in Townsville. So a lot of buyers agents will just put you wherever they have access, or most people are sitting behind a desk, don't really have teams on the ground. So we went sort of a couple of routes. One is the strategic route. One is actually having people on the ground. So it cost me a lot more to run the company.
Yeah.
But the overall feeling from the client is that one of success, really sort of white glove approach. And then as the years go on, again, it's just into our 6th year now. Now you start seeing such success because people are coming back. 80% of our clients have 2 or more properties. And going back to that partnership, 75% of our clients are now referrals.
Yeah, amazing. And just to kind of clarify the difference as well, it's like if you invest in Julian, usually the way it happens is kind of you have a relationship, like let's say I partner up with a builder in the outskirts of Sydney. So that's my partnership. And then because I have that partnership and that relationship, I only have stock in the outskirts of Sydney or in Melbourne, right? Like when a client comes to me, I can only sell them that stock because that's the only stock I have. Where with you, Julian, you have people on the ground, which are Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Perth.
Yeah.
In real people on the ground. And what basically happens is they source and search the property. And one of the things that you've told me is that in Perth, particularly, like when you call from Melbourne or Sydney and say, hey, you try to build relationships, it doesn't really work like that. They're like very protective of the environment. So you need that like person to actively like look for those unique off-market deals that kind of like no one else can get. Is that how?
Absolutely right. Yeah, the off market, on market, but it's just having that respect. I mean, Emma, for example, in Perth, I mean, she's been buying property for 15 years.
Yeah.
So the network that she has, no individual can build that,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you can definitely buy your own property, but are you going to build that network in a hot market like Perth, where we bought 100 properties in the past year? That's cooling now. I feel like they've reached the peak of the market there. Now we're buying heavily in Melbourne, buying a lot in Brisbane, but maybe for the lower budgets. In some of these areas like Gladstone and Rockhampton, to an extent as well. So it just depends what clients are looking for, and that's where is it a cash flow objective? Is it a capital growth objective? Is it via the superannuation fund? So what is it we're trying to achieve is key to us, and then we put the team on the ground to start looking for it.
Yeah, so it's really like a unique solution to a unique problem that the client experiences, right? It's not just like we're trying to slap like a particular property we have stock.
Yeah,
we're really trying to search, okay, what's their budget, how much, what's the loan that they can get, and then based off the amount that they can borrow, we're now trying to search for that specific property that will help them in the current market, right? Not something that worked 10 years ago or might work 10 years later, like right now.
Yeah.
Amazing. I want to ask you, so like a lot of like this heated discussion in the property space around what sort of properties to buy. There's like high rise. You've invested in one high rise. I know in Melbourne that like it's never growing, for instance, right? Yeah. Like in Sydney, you can get lucky. But could you share a little bit what type of properties there are and what investors should be very aware of when they're investing in property?
Yeah, I mean, there's various, we have a slide actually in our sales deck that shows the different types of properties. So just from, 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, double garage on a nice block of land.
Yeah.
Be that 400, 700 square meters of land. That's one type of property, probably 80% of what we do. Boring, but it works because land is the content that derives the capital growth. But, we might buy the odd apartment or townhouse for people. We can manufacture some growth by renovation or, floorboards, carpet, paint. We can kind of make some money that way, but high yield. So depending on the strategy, and maybe they don't have a big budget, so they can't afford a house, so we have to do that. We do splitter block. We buy larger blocks of parcels of land. We hold on to it for 5 or 10 years, and then we can go and do DAs and try to cut that up and sell it for our client. So these are all the strategies, higher risk, higher budgets. We're now launching a commercial property business as well. So we've been getting a lot of requests from our clients. We've now bought 3 or 4 residential properties, or just a different stage of life, maybe getting closer to kids are finishing school, maybe in their late 40s to 50s, and now looking for something for yield for the future. So we're getting into that commercial space as well.
Bit bigger budgets as well, yeah?
Bigger budget, probably $1 to $2 million at least.
Minimum, yeah. Up to can be like 10.
Yeah, we're probably not doing that sort of level of, $20 million, $30 million properties. It's probably within that. Our sweet spot would be that $2 to $10 million.
Amazing. And you, throughout this journey with Search Power Property, how many people have you inspired approximately? How many people have you helped invest in property?
Yeah, we're looking at the other day. I think we're over 500 now.
Over 500 people, wow.
And a lot of those guys have bought multiple properties as well. So it's, it's really building. And that goes back to your point about referrals. It's not just partnerships that has been such an amazing achievement from the team. It's also the referrals from our clients. So it's most days of the week you're getting a client coming, hey, I've just tell my friend about you or this or that. And it's just a lovely compliment. Like it makes you feel really, really special when someone recommends a friend or family.
People send you flowers or
Yeah, it's nice, and taking to dinner and things like that. It's nice because they succeed, and you get clients who really think they could never achieve anything in life. And it's so emotional to see them, they get their first property, or a young girl recently bought her first apartment. I don't want to rely on a man, I'll do it myself. And that's really amazing because they get such pride in what they've done, and it makes us feel really good about it too.
Yeah, and that's incredible. And it's just, and for people that work, especially like 9 to 5, they're high-end professionals, it's very different to what that vehicle can provide, right? For me, as a business owner, I would say like, yeah, like I'm very biased towards online business because that's how I've succeeded and achieved financial freedom. But for a lot of people, majority of the people in the world, like working 9 to 5, high-end professionals like doctors, accountants, etc., it really, you've got only a few options, right? Stocks and property. And
Maybe
I mean,
crypto.
maybe crypto, Bitcoin. I mean, there's like technically you can succeed in this universe in an infinite amount of ways, but really, like I would say, stocks, property, Bitcoin, and you have actually experienced like all of the pretty much like all of the methods.
Yeah.
What has given Julian that freedom?
I think it's consistency and also time. So sometimes, you hear a lot of people wanting to exit the world or exit the corporate world, and by the time of they're 30. And that's great if that's what people want to do. I mean, I love working. People often say, don't you want to retire soon? I'm like, well, no, I really would love to work forever because I get a buzz out of it. That's just me now today. That's how I feel. A lot of people come to me and say, we want to retire at 55 or 60. Well, how are we going to get there? We have to work backwards to work forward. So we build that plan around that for them. I guess to me, yeah, property is just, such a tangible asset. I can touch it, I can feel it. In saying that, we haven't ever seen 5 of our properties. Not that I'm not interested, but it's just not relevant because it's not an emotional. I try really hard not to be emotional because in the early days I was, be like, oh, it'd nice to fix up the garden for that client or put a shed in there for them and things like that. But you still want to be a really good landlord, but cut the emotion out, just work on the numbers.
Yeah, you mentioned some of the properties you've never even seen yourself, right?
No.
Like you've invested and you never,
Yeah, we go up to Brisbane all the time. I never go and look at my properties or anything. I've got a property manager and she looks after it.
Yeah, amazing. And what I resonate about, like also like your business growth and how people refer you, it's something that I've like our industries are very similar, like digital marketing as well as property. It's kind of a little bit like bigger ticket. I mean, yours is like in the millions, but our services are also very expensive. And what you only see right now through kind of like a more challenging time is that people only invest through like someone says, oh, I had a really good experience. And that's how my business has been able to grow very quickly as well because of, quality of the work.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of your clients, especially when it comes down to property, like there's no room for mistakes. You know what I mean? If someone, it can really damage a person if someone gets spooked and they invest in like poor property, it can really set someone back for 5, 10, 15 years. That's like a huge chunk of your life, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And especially if you don't have any business skills, you're working 9 to 5, you invest in something poor, for you to get out of it, it's very hard.
Yeah, I mean, everyone, we get a lot of comments on Facebook, about, you're ruining the world and you're making everything too expensive and only the rich can buy property. In fact, it's not the case. I mean, the average investor loan is just over $500,000. So we're not buying multi-million-dollar properties at all. And number two, the average Australian investor's earnings it's about $100,000. So these guys, most of our clients are hardworking mum and dads with kids and just wanting to, build a better life for themselves and for their kids, maybe leave a legacy, but also just not wanting to rely on the government for, the pension when they get to that age.
Yeah, amazing. And what Julian does as well, incredibly well, is like they offer a free assessment of your situation. Look, if you're interested in kind of like exploring what the options are, how to potentially get into property, Julian offers like it's a free assessment where what is it that what can people discover there?
So I guess we spend a lot of time asking a lot of questions to the client, trying to get to know them. What are their pain points? What are their goals? What's their experience? What they're looking to do now, future? And they're all varied. A lot of people get advice from their friends at a barbecue or their family member. The auntie will tell you to buy next door because that's where they've always lived. And so it's kind of listening to all that and then giving out, not judging them, but then trying to give our advice around that and then to explain what we do, but really to show them what we do. We really like to be transparent. I don't think many buyer's agents show, exactly where they buy. I mean, we release reports with you because, we're at the top suburbs to buy in different cities all the time. We're giving away all our IP, but we feel that all comes back again to us because people read it and say, okay, these guys are really, really understanding the data. I can't be bothered trying to do it myself. I tried, it's too hard. No agent calls me back in Perth. So then they come back to us eventually and ask us for help.
Amazing. I will leave all the links to get in touch with Julian and his team so you can book a free assessment on your own situation. What is it that you can borrow, how to borrow, which property invest, which property to watch out for. It's a completely free consultation, right? It could be worth like $300-$500. Going to be a link in the description down below. And lastly, Julian, I really want to thank you for today's session, coming all the way from Sydney to Melbourne, doing business here, also showing some love on the podcast and sharing your wisdom today. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining. And I can't wait to see you and your business grow even further.
Looking forward to it. Grow together.
Amazing.
Thanks, Cos.
Thank you.